Welcome everyone. I just really brief, just to let you know, I'm actually from Florida, and I taught for a lot of years in Florida. And I came out here, received a PhD because I wanted to go back and work with teachers, because every time as a teacher I always was looking for things to help engage my students in learning. So I thought it would be best, and so I haven't left because UVU hired me, and so I'm still here and I still love what I do. So just a brief background to let you know I am in education, have been in it for a lot of years. And this morning what I'm going to do is we're going to present digital storytelling. I use this an awful lot. It is an awesome tool. I have several different technology programs I use that are really simple, because there's the one thing that a lot of teachers don't have and students is time. And so we don't want to have to use these hard programs to try and put a little story together when there's so many more simple programs. And so I'll show you some of the programs. I just wanted to kind of tell you about the digital storytelling and how that works with the video. Some of the programs that I do use is PhotoStory 3. It's a Microsoft product. You can use PowerPoint on the Mac machine. PowerPoint you can actually convert to QuickTime movies. PC you cannot convert it as of yet. Hopefully Microsoft will get on the bandwagon and make it where you can convert the PowerPoint to a movie as well. One of the reasons why I don't think that they do is because they have Movie Maker and they have PhotoStory 3. PhotoStory 3 is the main piece of tech that I use. Is a free download. You download it off the Microsoft website and you pop it on your machine. Actually, I've downloaded it on here so I can show you how quick and easy it is. And it's one that students will pick up relatively easy. And so you can focus more on the learning and what the students need to learn than the tech piece itself. The other one you can use, if you're a Mac user, you can use iMovie, which is extremely easy to use. Most kids, you don't even have to teach them how to use it. They just go in there and they play around with it, and then the next thing you know, they've created a little movie out of iMovie. Okay, and another one is Animato. If you have heard of Animato, there's anybody heard of that one? That's a quick and easy one. It's also a free download. So every one that I've just mentioned that I'll show you are all free. There's not a dime you have to pay for anyone, and your students don't have to pay for it. All you have to do is download them. Movie Maker and iMovie comes on the machines when you purchase a laptop. So those are really simple programs to use. Animato is one that is an educator's one. You can actually sign up for it and be under an educator, and they will give you 60 seconds or longer of a movie to create, and the music's there. The kids just have to download images, and then they can narrate and do their voice. So there's those products. Those are the ones I use because they're free, quick, and easy. But the whole premise behind it is getting the kids to tell a story. And so because we're all captivated by one, I can show you every one of these pictures, or I can even hand them out, and I bet every one of you can come up with some kind of a story of whether you've learned it in history or you've experienced it yourself through life, or you just know about them, because each piece is meaningful. So we are inspired, we are captivated, and our students are inspired and captivated. I don't care what age we are, we love to tell stories. So why not have students tell their stories of what you teach them? I do this a lot. I teach a concept or a lesson, and I have my students write up a script, and then they convert it into a movie or in a story. And so it brings up a lot deeper learning. Actually, when you have students reinvent what they're learning, it goes into their long-term memory, and they learn it out of, and they keep it in their long-term memory. The other one, the concept behind digital story, is using multimedia. Now, this is why it's called digital storytelling, is because you want to use the multimedia. And using multimedia is graphics, video, music, and narration. And then once you used all this multimedia, you can publish it on YouTube, TeacherTube. You could publish it on a website, a blog, a wiki. You could Facebook it. And so the kids not only do they have a movie they created, then they have something they can share with the world. So that's going to help them do a better story. You also want to make sure when you teach them to mix these pieces, they artfully mix them all together where it comes out a story. In your handout, I've provided, I am a tech person. I started out teaching history and I ended up in technology, but I still sometimes rely on paper-based. So anyway, so in here, it is a step-by-step process of going on what you do and having your students create a story and a movie in the classroom. So once they gather their graphics, their video, and their audio, and their narration, and they put it in this tech tool, and they come out with this beautiful movie, and is focused on the story and not all the multimedia things. The appeal to learners and students, and this is why I love it, because it provides a voice to struggling readers and writers. Now, when I was in school, I was not one that loved to write, and I was definitely not one student that loved to raise my hand and to ask the teacher questions. And the other problem, I am deaf, I am over 50% deaf, and so that was another problem for me in my own school life. And so this is just another way to help those students that struggle. Who knows why? Because I never told my teachers that I had this problem. My parents had to, so they always thought I daydreamed. So when you get to know your students and you find out they're struggling in some kind of areas, or even students that are ADHD, this is just another avenue to get them to take what you have taught them and to put it in a movie format and show you what they have learned through a story. The other appeal is these are creative stories from students. This is their ideas. This is how they see what you taught them, and say, this is what I see, what you just taught me, and it's in a story. And so they just makes awesome, it's just an awesome tool to use in the classroom, and it helps them learn a whole lot better. The other one is differentiated learning, so that helps, and it teaches copyright laws. One of the things that I do, and I press upon my students, is that you can't take anything and everything off of Google. As great as Google is, it's all copyrighted. So we get into Creative Commons. We learn how to find pictures and music, and we go onto the internet and we learn how to find those things. We teach them how to get permission, how to not, you just can't take anything and put it in use and say it's mine. So that's a really important piece for kids, because most of the kids just think that they can grab anything off the internet and use it for free, and they can't. They have to get permission. And then you go into creative expression, and the things that they create is just awesome, because they just, their brains are just so spectacular in their own creativity. And so then the other one is to communicate. They're communicating their own ideas, and they're sharing it with the world if you have them put it on the web. The objectives to digital storytelling for the teacher is to help provide a hook to your lesson. It's also to enhance your current lesson plans, instead of just paper-based, because the kids still have to write. They have to create a one-page script in order to make a 3-minute movie. And it's a one-page script that's doubled space. And that one-page script, it starts at the top, goes to the bottom, and it's double spaced, and that makes a 3-minute movie. So what the students have to do is take what you've taught them and narrow everything down, and so they've got to get the exact, what's the most important pieces, and put it in that script to make their movie. If they go over the one page, then their movie's too long. If they go under the one page, then it's too short. So it's a way to gauge it. So your students are still learning, they're still writing, and they're just taking it and putting it in another media. The other thing that I love about storytelling, is it gives you, that students are able to look at a different point of view. So we all know about the 3 little pigs, right? The 3 little pigs that, the brick and built the straw house, But do we know the wolf's side? Why did the wolf really want to go after 3 little pigs? So this little story tells the entire side of the wolf. So sometimes you can help students look at other points of view instead of the one that they're always focused on. The other one is blogging. I'm sorry that it jumped like that, but the other one is creating a blog, a journal. There's also called goggling, where they put the art of storytelling on it, and they keep journaling their own stories. There are 8 components to digital storytelling, and these are them. You have to have a point of view, a dramatic question, so the students have to come from their own point of view, figure it out, and bring in their point of view, and they have to start with a dramatic question. You've got to have an emotional content. They have to have their voice, economy, images, music, and pacing. So let me show you. The power of personal expression is so important because you're looking at it from the child's point of view. And so they have to have their point come in and come across in that story. Once they do that, they also have to develop a dramatic question. What is it? All stories, you probably go to the movies. Everybody go to the movies? Okay. Most movies that you see, or most stories, have a purpose or a point, right? It builds and builds and builds. You get to that point, and then it starts leveling up. It's the same with this. The stories have to have some type of point, some type of question. Questions are always answered within a movie. They open up, whether they're stated directly or if they're just an underlining question. There is a question in every movie and in every story that you read or see. And it's always answered by the end of the movie or read or answered at the end of the story. So the same process with kids. They're actually making a mini little movie just like Spielberg does. You know, he's got a whole lot more equipment than we will as teachers, but even with the equipment that we get to use, it's still they come up with some really cool things. Okay, we're not going to look at the emotional content. This evokes emotion from the audience. I could pass this picture out, and every one of you can make me a 3-minute movie just based on this one picture. And the stories would be different. A 2 to 3 minute story you could tell just by using this picture. For one thing, this image evokes our emotions. I could come around the room and I could ask you, well, what does this tell you? What are you thinking? What kind of emotion is it touching upon? And then you can build from there. So the emotion in a movie and then story that students do is important. So that's another piece of digital story. Voiceover is extremely important. They have to have narration. I have my students do narration, and on the back of your paper you have a 4x6 index card. So what I do is have my students, before they write the script, I've taught the lesson, they've learned the concept, and I have them write on their index card. So what they do is we start at the top as a strategy for getting them to write. Instead of having that blank page syndrome, they're sitting in front of the computer and think, oh my word, what am I going to write about? And they have no. So this helps them calm down, come back, and think. So we sit for 10 minutes. My students sit for 10 minutes, and they have to write a script. And what they don't understand is that when they write and start at the very top, and they write all the way to the bottom, and then flip it on the back, and write again their script of what they've learned, this actually becomes their one-page double-space script for a 3-minute movie. So then after they've written a rough draft of their script and we discuss it and talk about it, they take this script and then go back home, sit in front of a computer, and then type it up on a Word doc, come back to the class. They start gathering images based on that one script. They start finding the music they love, and then they start recording based. And so the students sit in front of the computer with their recording with their own personal voice, or they can use a guest voice. That's supposed to be guests, sorry. They should be using a guest voice, and that could be someone that maybe their mom, their dad, their brothers, their sister, a friend. So a guest voice will come in, and they'll sit, and they have the script in front of them. It's perfect, it's grammatically correct, it's double spaced, and then they read from their script. When they do that, they should know that script well enough where it doesn't sound like they're reading. It sounds like they're telling a story, or they're involved in the story. So if that's how the script, it should be known so well by the student that they don't rely much on the script as much as they do on them telling their story. Okay, so here's an example of one. This was done by students.
Hola, I'm Dora. And I'm Boots. Will you help us learn about mountain men?
This has guest voice and...
Come on, Boots, let's go find some. Oh, look, here are some. Oh, why are they so hairy? Because mountain men live in the mountains for months at a time. But why? So they can trap beavers. Oh, why would they want to do that? In Europe, beavers were used to be in fashion. They had beaver gloves, beaver capes, and even beaver hats like this one. Where did they find the beaver? Beavers build their homes in lakes and streams like this one. The mountain men found lots of beavers in the Rocky Mountains. Where are the Rocky Mountains? We need our map. Look, there it is. Let's look at it. The mountain men really like the Rocky Mountains in Utah. Lots of rivers where they can find lots of beaver. And then they could trap them. Yeah, Boots. But what would they do after they trapped them? After they got all their beaver skins, they would go to a rendezvous with them. What's a rendezvous? It's like a big party. A fiesta? Exactly. They would do stuff like trade beaver skins, play games, and tell stories. I know, and then they would go find more beaver. You got it, Bruce. Now you know all about mountain men. So let's review what we've learned about mountain men, beaver, rendezvous, mountain men, beaver, rendezvous. Thanks for teaching us about mountain men, Dora. You're welcome.
This is an example of one where they've used all the components. They had the dramatic question, the personal involvement. They had the guest voices. They had the images that went along to tell the story, and then they had the narration. The economy, using the right amount of content, that's the most important piece. I never have my students go over a 3-minute movie or under. It's a perfect thing to make it. But the economy, what that is how fast you need the pictures or images going, how fast the narration needs to go. And you want to make sure you have an even pace where you don't bore the audience to death. And so you want to make sure that when they create the stories, it's entertaining. It can be a sad story. It could be a powerful story. It could be a happy story. And so you want to the students want to work on their economy, make sure all the images run smoothly along and matches the music and things like that. The images, they tell more than words. Spielberg has said that we take in images 60,000 times faster than we do known text. And so images are extremely important. In some stories, they may use 10 images. Some may use 5 images. Because as important as the images is, you still want to make sure they use the story they're trying to tell. Because some images can be used over and over. The one program I use takes up to 300 images. But when my students say I have 100 images, we sit and talk because that's way too many images. So images is important. Visualization is extremely important. And then the answers, the question. And then throughout the movie, the question is answered as you look and watch the story. Okay, so here's one. This one was actually done by a teacher to use with
Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address.
Sorry, this one was actually created by a teacher. And the ones I'm showing use photo story. This one created by a teacher to get their students hooked onto the Civil War. So you'll just have to let me know if you think they were successful.
Is perhaps the most recognized speech in American history. It was delivered at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, on November 19, 1863. An audio version of the address is used as the basis for this digital story. Early photographs taken during the 1860s and paintings found on the internet are used to accompany Lincoln's famous 267-word speech. It is hoped that this story might inspire students to conduct additional research on the American Civil War. Students may have read that there were up to 50,000 casualties at Gettysburg, but for many, those numbers have no context. This story could be used to encourage students to explore the larger significance of the war and the effect this struggle had on the developing nation.
Fourscore-and-7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Okay, so okay, never mind. The next piece, I was going to ask you what stood out. What was the question? What was the teacher focusing on, wanting to grab? What do you think it were? What did they really want the students to learn from this? Because this actually they used as an open to the lesson to hook the kids into the Civil War, and so they started the study. So those are the kind of things, and the instrumental thing is huge. You should only use instrumental unless you're going to have them do a music video or a music story, but instrumental. And so how did the song that they used in that story touch you against the other Dora one? So you got to think of what this music has to support the whole story. That's the thing I have the students to do the very last piece. They do their, they learn, they do their little draft, then they do their script. We go get pictures based on their script. Then they start putting it in the program. They do their narration, and then the last thing they do, once those pieces are together, they will start going to find their music, because that's a critical piece. Because how many of you been to a movie that the music just threw you for a loop, or just you wanted to cringe? I know I have. So, and you should use all instrumental. We won't show this is my last. This was another one I was going to show, but I don't have time. But this one's germs. Is teaching kids, what germs are on. And it was a cute little story, and it's a lot of fun and comical. These are the software programs I just wanted to show you. We do Photo Story, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Microsoft PowerPoint, Movie Maker, Apple, Animoto. They're all really easy. They're all free, except for the Flash. You would have to buy the Pro. But I don't use the Flash program. I use all the free ones. I don't believe in buying things unless I absolutely have to, because there's so much free out there that helps educators. And so let me just show you this is what Photo Story would look like. So if I open it up, and all they do is begin a story, and then once they begin it, they edit it or they can play it. And it actually converts into a media player. And then if you need Mac stuff, you use the iMovie. So the only thing you do is you import your image. If I can find an image really quick. Once the image is put in, okay, no images. Do you have a sample folder? Whose laptop today?
Do you have it in your conference folder?
Do you have a sample folder? Once the image is placed in, then you just click next, and it goes to the next screen, and then you start importing. You visit with your pictures and images. Just anything would do. Just one.
Pictures.
You
There we go.
there. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So once you get the image imported, you can edit it. This down here is their timeline. So like I said, this program takes up to 300 images. You import your images, you go next, And then you start they can do text on it, but a story should have, I always have my students do a telegram type thing. I only give them like 10 cents or a quarter. Once that's used up, they can't use any more text. Because the story's not about text, it's about the story. And so it has to be told. After you get that one in, you can do, here's your record, so they record right into the program. I do not have my students use this script thing. I always have them have it sit here in front of them so they can just refer back to it, because they really should know their script well enough, because it sounds like a story and not being read. And so once I get it recorded, you'll show up, and each picture is individual. So anything you do to the image, you'll pop up and see little icons to tell you what it does. After that, and they can preview their movie at any time, and then they go next, and this is here they put in the music. They can select the music, so if you don't want students using the internet, they can actually select the music from the program itself. It has hundreds of instrumental pieces to use, and it varies in style and moods. If you want them and you don't mind them bringing in their own personal music that they buy or stuff, you can use select, and they just pull it off the program. And then the last thing, once they're finished with that, they convert it and they save it to their computer. It converts automatically to a movie, and they're done. The technology is the easiest piece, is putting the story together. That's the most fun and the fantastic piece in the learning. Thank you very much.
Questions?
Yes. Go ahead.
Me?
Yes.
What about the copyright questions?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Copyright issues.
Copyright, we use Creative Commons, and in Creative Commons you have Flickr, you have Google, you have Blip TV. Blip TV is a video hosting program, and then you have OWL for music, and you also have Magnitude for music. All of it is it tells you exactly how you can use your music. You'll see a little Creative Commons icon, and it'll tell you you must reference me, but this is how you can use my image or my music or my video or whatever you're grabbing. So we go into creativecommons.search, well actually it's search creativecommons.com. And they can find all and that's what I use. Plus I use UEN, the multimedia. Everybody familiar with UEN? Okay, if you're not, UEN is a great resource. It's UEN.org. It's a resource for teachers in the state of Utah. You can get images, you can get video to use, and you can get things off of Pioneer Library to use as a teacher in the education setting. And as long as it's used in the education setting, you are fine to use anything you have on the UEN site. The multimedia one that I'm talking about is on UEN.org K-12 in the middle of the screen. Do I have time to pop it up?
Yeah, we have a couple minutes.
Okay. It looks like this. So these are the two resources I use. It's UEN Creative Commons, because I know as an educator I can use UEN, and because it's all based, the state has built this for us educators in the state, and they want us to use it. You can find all kinds of stuff. I absolutely love it. And so if you come here to K-12 and you scroll to right here, Classroom Resources for Educators, you want to come to Multimedia Resources. And we are free to use any of this information. All you have to do is cite your source. And use it. So it has music, it has pictures, it has digital picture, it has clip art, it has video, it has more music, and it has PowerPoints. And then it teaches the kids also how to cite their sources. So those are the two things I allow my students. I do not allow my students to Google, because I tell them if you Google, I better see a permission from an email or something, or an author, or wherever you get it, because it's illegal. So I just don't let them do it. But I teach them these two pieces, so they know it. And Pioneer actually has an image database. You get all the images you want. It also has Sounds Abounds. You can get all the MP3s you want, and they're mostly instrumental. And that's in the Pioneer database library.
I just wondered how young have you?
Oh, young, I have, now the students that I teach, they have taken it in their classrooms, and they have had second graders use PhotoStory and create movies. I haven't had one that's first grade, but I totally believe first graders can do it. I don't care what grade you are or how old you are. You can create a story using PhotoStory, because the most critical piece is making the story. The tech is the easiest piece. That'll take them, a student today, a kid in our generation today, it'll take them no time to do a photo story. So yes, I think first graders, I just haven't had one but second on up. Okay.
I was gonna say, I taught kindergarten, or I just finished teaching kindergarten, and we did a whole class story all together. And
Oh,
it
that's
was
a cool
perfect.
idea.
Yeah,
That is
it
a
was
great
perfect.
idea.
So
Yeah.
everybody can use it.
Yeah.
What was their reaction watching it once it was finished?
Oh, they loved it.
I bet they
And they
did.
went and showed it, we went and shared it with the other kinder classes,
Did you
then the
put it
first grade
online on
classes.
the internet?
No, I didn't.
I know the rules and all that about putting things online, but I promise you, kids would love to put that on their Facebook or
We
their
actually need to
MySpace.
wrap things up.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
really
sorry.
sorry.
Okay.
Chapter afterwards so that we
Thank
can move
you.
on to our next presentation.
Thank y'all very much.